This impromptu color correction was so much fun, and it was 100% free. This is my work experience student, and I looked at her hair and asked her, if you could do anything to your hair, what would you do? And she said, I want to go hot pink. But unfortunately, I can't because I have so much black box dye in my hair. And I said, sit your butt down in my chair and we're gonna do that today. So I just wanna show you guys what her hair looks like. She's been growing out her roots for a few months here, but her last box dye was really dark. You can see how dark that black is there as I'm showing it around, but you can see how light her roots are in comparison to the dark and how much root we have to work with today. So this actually makes my service a little bit easier, and I'll explain to you guys a little bit into that why later. But overall, this is her before. This is how long her roots have grown out. And then she does have some previous bleaching in those ends beyond my fingers there that she's telling me about. So that's something we have to be a little bit mindful of, is the health of her hair and the previous bleaching that's been done there as well, because it used to be actually pretty light. So what we're doing to keep in mind the health of her hair is we are applying K18 mist, and we're doing it generously all over. We applied water to her hair first and then the mist. Now I am mixing together my Bond Enforcing Color Remover by Schwarzkopf, and I'm mixing that with 20 Volume Developer. I'm not really sure why my camera decided to film in slow motion for this part, but whatever. The Bond Enforcing Color Remover is fantastic. However, it is like a lightener base to it. It's not one of those ammonia-free ones like Color Oops. So this one is a little bit more risky to use on clients' hair, but I do need to provide some extra lift with her. So because she has short hair and I know her color history, I feel safe using a bleach-based color remover on her. I'm gonna show you guys how I apply that today. I'm using the 20 volume instead of the 10 volume because I need that extra little bit of power and lift in her hair because she has several rounds of black box dye in there. She was telling me how sometimes she used the green box, which I believe is Garnier. Sometimes she'll use other boxes, and you know, she's a teenager. She just has fun experiments with her hair. I did that all the time when I was a teenager, so I completely understand not having the budget to do your own hair. And so, you know, she wants her dream hair. She's been volunteering her time to, you know, get some work experience hours at my salon. And I felt like this is like the least I could do to thank her, give her her dream hair and do it safely so that she doesn't burn out all of her hair at home doing this. So I apply to anywhere that there is previous color, and it's actually good that she has a bit of her root grow out because then we don't have to apply this harsher bleach mixture to her roots here. And because we're going to be applying bleach to her hair later overall to do a full bleach out. And that's because, I mean, overall, I know that this isn't going to lift that much because it's just 20 volume and a color remover, but it's not going to get her as light as we want her to be for a hot pink color, which is somewhere between a level 7 and 8. I expect this is going to go to like maybe a level 6, but at least pull out all of the black. So the thought process here is that I'm going to do color remover and then bleach where it needs to be bleached afterwards, as well as doing her roots and then applying the pink. So that's typically how I would approach color services like this one. Now this is something you have to be pretty speedy at. So you can take larger sections, and as long as you're properly saturating everything through and using your hands to massage the product through into the hair, that should be fine. And color remover, you're not really supposed to put heat on because, I mean, bleach, you're also not supposed to put heat on. There's a lot of services that you should not put heat on them. But what I like to do is incubate and keep everything warm by using these foils, as well as a little trick that I'm going to show you in a minute here. But the warmth helps to keep the product going and to prevent it from almost like timing out, because a salon can be kept quite cold and that can stop your process from going where it needs to go. So what I like to do is flip over a couple foils onto the last ones, kind of see where they're at, and that keeps it incubated and more warm. Then I let a towel sit on top of the hair, keeps the heat in. Then for good measure, I wrap the Framar back bib on top and apply a plastic head cap on top. And I don't add heat to that, but I allowed that to sit for, I think, 40 minutes, which is pretty long for a color remover, but we needed this one to really sit and do its job. And we had K18 on there, and I wasn't concerned for her hair's health. But overall, this is how I let her hair incubate in a safe way without applying heat, is I just blanket her up and let the warmth of her head and her body do all the work. This is what her hair looks like after we rinsed her out. She is looking like, again, what I expected, like a level 6 really orange color. And that's unfortunately not quite light enough to do our pink, which is what was expected. So I'm going to move on to step 2, which is applying bleach to where it needs to be applied and avoiding that yellow band that we have. But this is why I like to apply color mover a little higher than where I can see the black box dye, is because then it gives me a really good idea of what needed to be bleached and what didn't need to be bleached. This can look a little scary to some people, but it's okay. Trust me, this is still a pretty safe way of doing this. So for my lightener today, I am using Wella. I'm using Wella Blonde or Plex. And I'm using that because it's a little bit of a slower lift than the Schwarzkopf Blonde Me, which I typically use, or sometimes I mix the two of them together. But I do actually like to use the Wella Blonde or Plex when I want a slower lift. And one of the reasons why I want a slower lift here is because, yes, I am applying to her head all over, but I'm also going to be applying a more gentler formula, like a 10 volume formula, to her root area. And I know that this is mostly staining here, this orange stuff, and it's been lifted and darkened, and now it's been lifted with color mover and then lifted with bleach again. So I still want to take my time and have this lift kind of slower. So again, that's why I don't want to use the Blonde Me by Schwarzkopf, and I'm going for a slower lift, and it's on damp hair too, so that's providing a little bit more of a barrier for our time, as well as the fact that I'm not only doing this color correction, I am also assisting another stylist with her color correction this day as well. So I have kind of 2 color corrections on the go, and I want to make sure that my client has enough time to sit and process while I assist with the other one. And normally I wouldn't really do that with 2 clients at once, but this is a special kind of case, and the other stylist is doing all of the application work for the color correction, but I'm going over and kind of assisting with formulas and the process that we're going to be doing that with, because it was quite a doozy, that one. So yeah, overall, I'm wanting a slower lift with a little bit more of that clay consistency so I can safely apply to the orange areas and get them to lift as much as I need them to, and then go into the root area with a 10 volume mixture and allow those to lift nice and slow as well, so everything catches all up to the same-ish level. And again, this is color correction, not color perfection, so I'm not expecting a completely pure, clean canvas. And I'm so happy that she wants a bright pink instead of a pale pastel pink, because if I needed a pastel pink, I would need to lift her to a level 10, and that's just not happening in a safe way today. So a level 7.5, 8 is our goal. We are looking for a very golden yellow color for our final lift, and that's the essential goal here. After I've applied all the foils, I'm just checking to see how my last back ones kind of lifted, just to kind of see where we're at. And as we can see, there's still a ton of staining on the hair, which is going to be the case with black box dye. You're not going to get a perfect level 10 lift out of that because of the staining power in the cuticle. It's no longer in the cortex of the hair, it's just stained on the outside. So that can't be avoided. That orange color is going to be there, that very golden color. After they've processed to the level I want them to be at, I've pulled out my foils in areas that I felt were ready and left the other foils in, and now I'm applying the 10 volume mixture to the roots. This is the real-time application, so it might not look that fast, but this is pretty fast and lazy for a bleach root application. And it doesn't need to be super neat because, again, it's just a 10 volume, and that yellow gold color can stand to be lifted a little bit more. And that's why I applied at a time when I felt like those ends were almost there, but not all the way, because then everything can catch up all around the same time. And I am taking extra care to make sure that when I pull out each piece, I'm checking underneath as well to make sure there's no spots or splotches that have been missed. And I am very generously applying lightener onto the root area, and in some areas scooting it downwards into any areas that are still a little bit more orangey than I want them to be. Overall, this is what I do over the entire head, and I work in order from where I started to where I finished, because that just works best for the timing of everything, because those front foils are still processing in the mids and ends how I applied them. After I've applied all of her roots, I bag her up so that she can be incubated and process all at the same time. Now that she's finished her processing, which was 30 to 40 minutes later, I am rinsing her out and showing you guys how it all lifted. And as you can see, yes, still the roots have a purer lift than the mids and the ends, but overall we got her to a really light color. I'd say that's like a very golden level 8, and I think this is perfect for a hot pink color like what she's wanting. Overall, so much more even, and those bleached ends stayed on and they stayed healthy enough and fine. We didn't really have any breakage, which I'm surprised about. But overall, this is how you're supposed to do a service like this when you have 3 bands of color. We have her natural at the root, we have black box dye in the middle, and then we have previous bleach with black box dye on the ends. You just kind of have to use color remover, see where that takes you, and then apply your lightener onto the darkest areas. And just, go with what needs to be done with each step and reevaluate as you're going, which is how color corrections are done in my chair. Today, I am using a mixture of Joico Intensity and Pulp Riot. For the Intensity, I'm using a mix of the hot pink and the pink. For Pulp Riot, I'm using a mixture of First Base and Candy. And this is going to give her a really stunning, like super vibrant hot pink. And I can't say what we did want to call it because, I can say we can call it hella pink, but we didn't use the word hella in the chair. And this is one of my favorite colors ever to do on people because I just feel like on very fair skin clients, this is just so cute and alternative and fun and looks absolutely adorable on her. After we've applied it, I let it sit for 20-25 minutes so it can fully sink into her hair, and then I washed her out. And then because I was running late, we decided to take her after photos the next time she was in. And this is how she came in with her friend styling her hair in braids. It's so cute. Her hair looks adorable. I love this on her. She is super, super happy with it. And overall, I think that this was a successful color correction. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to follow and like and subscribe.